Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to Uncut and welcome back to another movie review.
Woo.
For those watching on YouTube, today we're actually trying a different background, a different environment to record a podcast, which in theory will make it so that it's easier for us to record our podcast continuously. We were recording in a space that was widely used in the house.
Yes.
So this way it might be easier for us. So we have a couple different things going on. Welcome to a little bit of craziness. But anyways, we're going to try something different today before I tell you what the movie review is. We bought this book. It's called A Little Book About Movies. We bought this about 2 months ago, maybe. Actually, might have been right after Christmas.
I think so. Yeah.
And it has a bunch of quotes for the cinephile in your life. So every episode, I'm going to start with a quote about movies. So I'm going to give you the very first one.
Oh, we're going to go in order.
We're going to go in order today because, I'm going to lose track of what's going on.
Of course.
So, the cinema has no boundaries. It is a ribbon of dream. This was sent by Orson Welles. There you go. There you have it. Anyways, let's dive right in. Let's write that if in it. Gibberish. So today we're talking about the one and only Argylle. And we
Hence the photo you can see on YouTube.
We watched this movie, January?
February,
yeah. So this movie came out earlier this year. And we were actually really excited for this movie. We have been seeing the trailers for a long time.
It's one of the movies that we mentioned in the movies that we're looking forward to episode. So one of our top picks so far. But it didn't do so well.
Yeah, looking at the what people had to say, I guess it kind of bombed.
Dramatically bombed at that.
Not many people talked about it.
It had a budget of $200 million and only made $96 million worldwide.
Whoa. That is absolutely insane.
It's pretty rough. I didn't see many good reviews as I was looking for reviews for today's episode. So,
as for our time in the movie theater itself, I think I had a good old time. Yeah. I think I enjoyed myself. I mean, the movie seemed to be a quirky, kind of like Inkheart-esque movie. If you read that book, if you watched that movie, with characters from your book being real characters. And I think this movie actually takes you in a lot of like a different... It's a roller coaster, for sure.
Yeah.
Because at some points, initially, you do think that it's the characters of this book coming alive as she writes them. But then you realize that it's just her writing her memories. But then at some point you're like, is she a good guy? Is she a bad guy? And until the end of the movie, you really do not know.
Yeah, it's very hard to talk about the plot, I feel like, because there was so many twists and turns and things that were changed up.
For sure.
But I'll just kind of read the blurb that's like available on Google. Reclusive author Ellie Conway writes best-selling espionage novels about a secret agent named Argylle, who's on a mission to unravel a global spy syndicate. However, when the plots of her books start to mirror the covert actions of a real-life spy organization, the line between fiction and reality begin to blur. So this was released on February 2nd, directed by Matthew Vaughn, and distributed by Apple TV. And this has quite a star-studded cast.
It really
I think
does.
That was another thing that made us interested. We have Bryce Dallas Howard, who I know from Twilight. People might know Bryce from other things. Dua Lipa, Henry Cavill, John Cena, Ariana DeBose, Samuel L. Jackson. I'm trying to see who else I know off the top of my head. Catherine O'Hara, I know her. But yeah, quite a lot of people were involved in this production. Yeah. There was like a large cast of people and characters. And you never quite knew what was going to happen next. So,
and I think it's a really good amount of like famous people, famous actors to be a movie that bombed.
I know.
Like usually fans of these people just come and see the movie at the theater for the sake of seeing their favorite actor. And some of these people are definitely people's favorite actors.
Yeah, definitely.
Like Henry Cavill.
Makes me wonder how people interpreted the film, because when we watched it, we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and we didn't think anything bad about it. I mean, we knew it wasn't a serious movie. We knew what we were going into, and so I didn't really feel let down.
Yeah, cause based on like the trailers alone, like I knew we were gonna have a lot of fun, but when I kept seeing like the cat, it's not even. Oh yeah. There's the cat.
That cat.
Every time I kept seeing the cat, I was like, okay, so there's obviously more of like a funny, like comedy-esque thing happening. And I can't say that I like saw different plots coming. I think the trailer did a good job of hiding a lot of the turns that you take. But I really enjoyed it. So I was kind of taken aback reading about it. And I'm very curious if people expected a different movie. I wonder if people wanted a different twist ending than the one that we were given. It's hard to say. I think we've talked about this before, but spy, thriller, mystery, those have been done for centuries, from literature to movies. So I think people are always looking for like the movie that they can never see coming and that always kept them on their toes, and I think that's kind of difficult as of now.
I feel like right now with these movies and like murder mysteries as well happens, people are trying to solve the mystery and figure out the hints before the movie does it. I don't know if this one was too predictable. I guess some aspects you could see coming, but in reality I wasn't expecting most of it. I really enjoyed a lot of the decisions that were made, because I think it made the characters more interesting. It made you start to question more whose side are they really on. There were some things that were left as foreshadowing that were only solved by the very end, so there was that like sense of satisfaction there. But yeah, I'm always down for whatever ride the movie wants to take me on. I don't try to solve it throughout. So I wonder maybe I think that kind of ruins the plot almost a little bit.
Definitely. Is there any more you want to say before we hop into some reviews?
I think we can hop into some reviews.
Okay. Side note, I love that they're doing dishes. We were
actually joking about this earlier, how whenever we try to record the podcast before everyone goes to bed, they always magically start doing dishes.
Every time.
Dishes are never done except when we do the podcast.
It's like we have like a beacon. Do dishes now.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. So this is Roger Ebert.
Nice.
The film was given 1.5 stars.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. But Argylle forgets the punchline in lieu of trying to become a prototypical spy flick. It sputters as it attempts to re-engineer the mechanics of better films. Major stars like Samuel L. Jackson, Richard E. Grant, and DeBose are casualties of a blank script, offering them thankless roles. Flat lighting gives away to jagged action and choppier editing, artificially boosted by no less than 3 bombastic plays of the Beatles' recovered track Now and Then. Scenes involving Alfie the cat would be more adorable if the VFX around the cat wasn't rough around the edges. It's ironic, however, that in a film instigated by Ellie writing a bad final chapter, Vaughn struggles to know where and how to end. Vaughn is in the director. There are several convenient twists that this review will not indulge, but suffice to say, the more Vaughn tries to explain, the less fun this becomes. The inconsistent switching between color photography to black and white does not help matters. Azani Rockwell for a time is playing this most interesting character in years until the film demands he became a romantic lead. Somehow, as the backstory behind Ellie crystallizes, Howard's performance loses force too. The pair circle the narrative drain, never capable of picking a course that balances the newfound seriousness of Argylle with the frivolity of its previous acts. It all culminates in a big hallway set piece, meant to be quirky and operatic, but in reality might be the dreariest action scene committed to film. Vaughn doesn't understand how bodies move through space, instead turning up his usual desire to warp fight choreography into overstretched plastic to unstable levels. It's a shame Argylle had the potential to be a whip-smart parody, and unfortunately just seems to get tired of being the butt of the joke before it can deliver the punchline. But in attempting to avoid becoming a gag, laboring to connect this film with the Kingsman franchise, Vaughn imbues his film with anonymity, making it merely forgettable.
I actually completely forgot that it was connected to the Kingsman franchise. Mm-hmm. That's something that you can see at the end of the movie, and I'm actually really interested in looking into it. Yeah. As to what they were saying earlier, I did think while I was in the theater that it was a funny movie for most of it, and then there were some really serious scenes that didn't quite fit.
Which ones are you thinking of?
I don't know. I feel like sometimes it just got to the nitty gritty of what being a spy is, and her losing her memory felt like really serious. Like she was given a whole different life, which I loved, but it is not funny, you know?
They definitely did like a switch up a little over halfway through. And I did notice like the tension shift. Yeah. That was then like immediately followed up with like a slight romantic plot being resolved. But I definitely understand where they're coming from in that. It's a fine line to draw. I feel like if it was more serious throughout, maybe it would have fit a little bit better.
And I feel like a little bit more seriousness will make it so that people liked it a little bit more. Yeah. Because sometimes you didn't know if it was a comedy or if it was a drama or just a spy drama. So they were a little bit all over the place. Yeah. But I like, for example, I loved the funnier parts with like Henry Cavill and John Cena.
They're the parts that I remember the most.
Like, come on, if you're going to put John Cena in a movie, you know it's still going to be a little bit quirky because that's just who he is. Yeah. Not saying that he doesn't have a range, but as far as what he's done so far, he's a funny man. Yeah. So you know that his character is going to be funny. And I did not think that the translation of John Cena's character into real life was... I don't know how I feel about the characters being like all buff and crazy good in her books, and in real life is more like, oh look, he's the spy, he knows how to fight, but he's also like kind of like a dad bod, you know?
Comic relief.
Yeah, a little bit of comic relief in there. Because I mean, to be fair, to be a spy, you do gotta be fit, and he didn't seem too fit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's like definitely like a lot that I still liked regardless of like kind of sudden tonal shifts. I personally didn't pick up on the editing that they were talking about. I definitely didn't notice Alfie that much. It could just be because neither of us really have much of a background. I actually felt
like he wasn't in the movie that much. Yeah. Like he could have been in the movie way more. Because at some point they even forget that, like, leave him behind, and he's not in there for a whole chunk.
Yeah. So like I don't know. I mean, I guess that's a little bit more nitpicky than we usually go. And as far as like the major stars having like thankless roles,
here and there.
I
think they serve their purpose.
Yeah, I think a lot of what they did for marketing, in a sense, too, is to have these major stars in there to help like sell it even more, because Henry does give off the macho, crazy good spy action hero vibe, whereas like the actual spy in the movie might not give that off that well, like in comparison. And so I think like by having them there, they served like that purpose of selling like the plot, and adding to like the fantastical sequences that Ellie imagines in her head when she's writing it. But I don't know that their roles were ever meant to be more than that. So it's hard to say that they were like thankless.
What do you think of her being Argylle?
I was not like seeing that coming at all. I was okay with the plot until we kind of were wondering whose side she was on. I was more the moment that we find out who Ellie's father is, I was hoping that the script would kind of be like she didn't know what she was writing, and she had a little bit more not knowing of like what's going on, more like innocence in that. And for the filmmakers and storytellers to decide like, oh no, she was heavily involved and she could be a bad person, potentially, like giving us that moment. I think that's when I was just like, I don't really like that. But as far as reflecting on it and understanding her writing process, it makes sense that she was the spy all along.
But once again, she's not what you would consider a spy. Like, in theory, in these books, these spies are really high capacity, and she's just not. I don't know.
She looks more normal.
She's a van mom, like a soccer mom.
She has that vibe, yeah. But maybe I think that was also one of the points.
Yeah.
Is to show that even though she might give off like more van mom vibes, she has like this alter ego played by Henry Cavill that can kind of show and personify the alter ego that she has within her that she might just not be able to reflect.
Sure. Well, let's get into the second review.
This is from campustimes.org. I had never heard of it.
That might be a first.
This might be a first time using this source. The supporting characters have little screen time. Either they leave the movie entirely or end up lost in the plot. I was also astounded by how little Cavill was in it, given that he is positioned dead center on the poster. I'm not kidding. Look it up.
That's so true.
Aside from poor character usage, the film's plot also falls through. The characters make terrible decisions only to further the plot. Otherwise, it would have ended sooner. Just when the story started to hook me, it introduced convoluted plot twists that lost me. It made me feel the film's 2-hour and 19-minute runtime. The plot twist happened so frequently that I wasn't able to follow the story. I genuinely had to look at the plot description on Wikipedia in the middle of the movie to understand what was going on. The film's special effects were also lacking. The poorly CGI'd cat in the trailer gives this away early, and the problem only worsens tenfold in the actual movie. The green screen backgrounds looked particularly horrible, bringing me out of the already lackluster plotline. The film did have some redeeming qualities, though, one of which was being Howard's and Rockwell's performances. Their chemistry as the leads was great, and they're equally entertaining to watch as spies. Rockwell, in particular, had great comedic timing that worked towards what the film tried but failed to be. The most fun parts of the entire film were the action sequences. Vaughn never fails to create surreal fight scenes, which you can't help but be astounded by. The choreography for the fights, my favorite being the one in the train, which was featured in the trailer, and one of the fights in the last act. It was gorgeously and creatively done, keeping me somewhat interested. I definitely understand that. I think while the trailer didn't give much away, I think that might be where people were weirded out, because Henry's not in it, really.
Yeah, he's really not in it.
He's like a figment of her imagination. He's not. I think honestly what people expected is that she was writing about Henry Cavill as like an actual spy.
Isn't
she
that
would
a
meet
thing?
him.
Isn't there a thing at the end that he is an actual spy though?
That he is an actual person.
But he's not Argylle. No, he is Argylle. Oh, I don't remember.
No,
I misremember.
He's a random. Henry shows up at the very end as a random fan who has like a long mullet and a country accent, being like I loved this book. And she was like, oh, it's him. He's who I thought of in my head. But we don't have any context for that. I genuinely think people going into this movie were expecting Henry Cavill to be an actual spy named Argylle, and she's just telling the future. And now there's this evil crime syndicate who wants to use her to know what Argyle's next move is.
I think that would have been better. And I think you could still go with the mind forgetting your memories plot, but not making her Argylle.
Making her
an extra spy
Yeah.
with them. Maybe Argyle all
The
along had a third
information.
one.
Yeah, something like that. I genuinely think that's what people expected.
Yeah.
Maybe if we had that movie, people would have liked it better.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if we knew more what the movie was going to be like, maybe we would have liked it better too. But it's hard to say when you also don't want trailers to give away the entire plot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really
It's
difficult.
difficult.
But then what they were saying about not being able to follow because too many plot twists. Come on. I know.
But
I
that's
understand.
fair. That is fair.
I don't know that it's fair. I understand that there's many plot twists in this
Mm-hmm.
movie, but not to the point that you have to, in the middle of the movie theaters,
Mm-hmm.
bring out your phone and watch and look at the Wikipedia for
Yeah.
the plot. It's not that complicated. It's not Gemini. It's not impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Mission Impossible. It's nothing crazy. I think you can easily follow
Mm-hmm.
it. Some parts, yes, the plot twist, the second plot twist comes 5 minutes after the first plot twist,
Mm-hmm.
but you have 5 minutes to process that plot twist. It's not really like you're in the vines.
I felt like they gave you information that all related to each other, and then you take a break, and then more info, and then you take a break.
Yeah.
I think that's what I didn't like about the very, very end, because there was so many things happening as far as plot twist goes, and we didn't get much of a break because now we were having them do action sequences. There was
Yeah.
no debrief of all of that info and all of like the wondering of like whose side are we on right now. I think that's my only criticism of the ending, but the rest of it I felt like I could follow really easily.
And I really did like the fighting scenes. I think all of them. I really enjoyed the first one on the train. I really enjoyed the one on the spy base. I think they were all just super
The last
fun.
one with the Beatles song, which was also like a romantic
Yeah.
action sequence.
With the smoke.
We were laughing so hard.
We were.
It was one of the funniest things.
Everyone
we've seen.
was.
Yeah. It was so enjoyable. And yeah, I definitely can see what they're saying about how like the human body does not move through space like that, but
It's a movie.
we're gonna go with it because it's a romantic bombs away.
Like, listen,
sliding
amongst everything that is
dudes,
happening, is that really what you're gonna say? That's not realistic. Come on.
None of this is
None of
realistic.
this is
That is the
realistic.
point.
I think sometimes, as critics, people, or even just as a normal watcher of movies, people get like able to sustain their disbelief for some stuff, for most of the stuff, but then someone wakes up with a pretty face and they're like, look at the hair. I don't know about that. That's not how you wake up. Come on. It's the minor details, but it's part of the movie. It's not even part of the universe or the laws of that universe. It's just, it's easier for the movie. It makes it better. Like, if you didn't have that, if you had a scene of the character doing their hair, doing, washing their face, the movie will get dragged long.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to do it for the sake of the movie, and it doesn't make sense, but it's fine.
We can move past it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, we really enjoyed this movie. I will definitely recommend giving it a watch. It's not in theaters anymore, but you can find it on...
Don't find it on Amazon Prime. It said it was $20.
You
Other
can find
places were cheaper, like Apple TV. I know had it.
I'm sure
cheaper.
it'll come on streaming services if it's not already.
Well, it was
free.
distributed by Apple TV, so I would look
Oh,
there.
it'll probably be an Apple
see
TV.
if
Yeah,
it'll be free within the next like couple months.
it probably already is. To be fair.
It said I still had to pay for it,
Hmm.
but maybe in the next couple months it'll be free.
Yeah. But how many clapping boards out of 5 would you give Argyle?
Give me a solid 4.
Solid 4. Wow, you really did like it.
I enjoyed it. It was a fun ride.
You know what? I'm also gonna give it a 4. I think as a comedy movie, it's a really enjoyable comedy movie.
Yeah.
As a drama, it's not a drama, so people are trying to
Lower your expectations.
do it. Yeah, you're not gonna get a crazy story here. I mean, you do get a crazy story, but you're not gonna get a crazy drama per se. So another 4. So overall, a 4 out of 5 clapping boards is what you get. And you can follow us on many, many different social medias. You can find us on Instagram as NCAT the podcast. You can find us on YouTube, where the recording of this podcast episode is, as well as vlogs and some other fun stuff in there as That Film Couple, which is the same handle for TikTok, where we do short form content and short form reviews and other stuff as That Film Couple. You can also find us on Twitch, where we game sometimes, or so we say, as Sebas Parra 1K. You can find me. Oh, actually, you can find our podcast if you're on YouTube right now, on any podcast platforms as @cot exclamation mark. And finally, you can find me on Instagram as sebi.mp4.
And you can find me at caitlin.mp4.
Thank you for being here one more week. Please make sure to give us a like or give us a follow or subscribe wherever platform you're on. We'll love to hear from you in the comments. Just let us know what you think of this movie. If you go watch it, if you don't. And if you don't, why not? And we'll see you in the next one. And cut!